is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, and welcome you all to yet another vlog of mine. You will have been noticing that after a week of ramming content onto the channel pretty much every day and a couple of times twice a day, that I've done absolutely nothing this week, and it is because I've had a bloody nightmare with my laptop and for no other reason. I'm not going to ramble on too much at the beginning because for people that are clicking on this video to get straight to the crux of the problem and how I seem to have managed to get round it, hopefully, because I didn't find a huge amount of help on this particular subject. I found a lot of people asking the question, why am I getting a blue screen? I asked, but I didn't find many people with that. Well, there was a lot of people with answers, but none of which fixed my problem. So without further ado, what was happening was, so I'm going to explain what was happening to me using the Elgato capture devices, and of which I've got 2 at the moment, and then I will crack into a list of what I tried. Now, before you try anything in the list, wait till the end, because it could be that you don't have to do an awful lot of the stuff that I tried. You could just do the part that I think has ended up solving my problem. So yeah, so what was happening was I decided that I was going to get, I already had the Elgato HD60 capture device, and I thought, what the hey, I can afford to do it, so I'm just going to get the, I didn't need it particularly, but I thought I might as well get the better one out there, which is the HD60S. And the only difference between the two is that the HD60 is on USB 2 and the HD60S is on USB 3, and all that means is that the picture on your laptop while it's recording is a live picture, so it's a live game view, as opposed to on the HD60 without the S, you've got this sort of maybe 2-second delay in the picture reaching the laptop. Now that makes no difference to recordings and stuff that you're doing, other than when you finish a recording, just give it a couple of seconds before you hit the stop button, otherwise you cut yourself off. But outside of that, a person watching your stuff would never know the difference. You also, for anyone who doesn't know this already, you have to have a USB 3 port in order to use the S. If you don't have it, it will not function whatsoever if it's plugged into a USB 2. So anyway, that aside, I got it, and very first thing I did, which was a little bit stupid, but I don't think has anything to do with the bigger problem, was I thought, well, it's nigh on the same thing. So I didn't bother uninstalling anything. I literally unplugged the old one and put, with all its cables, I didn't keep any of the cables, took all the cables away and plugged in my new one and plugged it straight into the laptop with the new set of cables. So I knew the cable was a USB 3 cable, I knew that my HDMI cable was the one that had come with, I don't think there's any difference, but I used everything that was in the new box. And I didn't use it for a few nights actually, it seemed to be okay and I left it. Then I tried to use it for a recording and the recording was all over the place. So I then decided to uninstall the Elgato software and reinstall it, at which point it seemed to be okay. And it seemed to be okay for probably about, well, most of last week, because I put all of that content up pretty much with the new Elgato HD60S. And it came to a recording I was doing. I'm trying to remember when it first happened, but it came to a recording I was doing, and I hit the stop button and I hit the edit tab in the software for Elgato, and it just went bang, and I got this blue screen of death just come out of nowhere. It just went boosh, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, here we go. And you know, these well, certainly the HD60 had been running on this laptop for 1.5 years without any problems whatsoever. I hadn't done anything major to the laptop. I've kept the update. I mean, I do Windows updates pretty much before I do any recording, because I don't want to get caught with the thing saying, you know, it's been the first time that it's restarted in the middle of me recording something because I hadn't done my Windows update. So I usually do it. I usually check every night before I do a record, is there any updates, get them out of the way, and then I'll record, because they're usually quite quick. Anyway, so I got this boosh out of nowhere, this blue screen, and there began my journey, because I could not open and close the software without it completely crashing on me, getting this blue screen. And it meant that I couldn't record anything because I had no idea if it was going to blue screen in the middle of recording or what. It seemed to only be doing it when I closed the software down. And on that one occasion where I went to the edit button, it seemed to just pop as well. And it was just really unpredictable. So the actual message that it was bringing up, it was a massive blue screen and had the grumpy face on it. I'll try and put an image up behind me. I had to take the picture. I took a picture of it with my phone at the time, so I don't know how good the image will be, but I'll try and put it up behind me. So it said DPC_watchdog_violation was the message right at the bottom, and that was the basically all you got really for that error for the error message. And so I had no idea what to do. So my first thought was, right, I need to uninstall everything and reinstall it. So I tried that. I tried uninstalling the software, and that didn't have any impact. So then I looked in the device manager, and I uninstalled the driver in there and uninstalled the software again and installed that. Still no joy. So I'm going to run through. I've written it all down because I did so much over the last couple of nights. So I did. Yeah, so I tried that. I uninstalled the driver. I uninstalled the software. Tried putting that back. Didn't work. So then I thought, well, my old one definitely works. So I put all of the old cables back. Uninstalled it all. Put all the old cables back. Plugged the old one in. The old HD60, which I've still got. And it did exactly the same thing. So whatever was happening was affecting any Elgato device. It didn't matter what I plugged in. It was just going splat. So that kind of then smelled like something had changed in their software when they update it all the time, because they're continuously giving you new versions of this stuff. And it was starting to feel like it wasn't agreeing with something that was on this laptop. So uninstall the software, install the new versions, uninstalled any reference to Elgato. So what I was finding was that because I'd kind of done several installations of Elgato before, I was finding like when I went into programs, there was something called Elgato something, and then there was one called Game Capture. So if you see anything with Elgato on it or anything with Game Capture on it, delete it or uninstall it. Likewise, in the device manager, if you go up to the top of device manager, and this is, if you don't know where that is, it's in control panel, then in hardware, and then in device manager is a little link for it. It'll bring up a big list of all your stuff. And in device manager, there's a thing where you can put view hidden items, and that's where you'll find all of your old devices that are no longer there. And if you've done multiple installs, let's say you've had 3 Elgato devices and you no longer have the old ones, it could be that there's little remnants of drivers kicking around. And if you say view hidden items, you'll see them because they're slightly, when they appear, they'll be grayed out in comparison. Anything basically that's installed but not plugged in will not show until you view hidden items. And once you see the hidden items, anything with game capture, anything, usually it's in it was in device manager, sound, video, and game controllers. That was the heading it was under. That's where you'll find anything to do with the drivers for Elgato and game capture. So that's you can right click uninstall the driver, and when you do that, it will say, do you want to delete the driver as well as uninstall it? And you tick the box to say yes and okay. But that in itself doesn't necessarily get rid of all the driver files. And if it comes to it, like I say, wait to the end of this list before you go doing any of this sort of stuff. But you can go to the C drive, Windows, System 32 folder, and there's driver folders in there. And it's worth doing a little Google as to where you can find driver files. But there's not that many folders. There's like drivers, obviously. There's one called drivers, and then there's a few others kicking around the same area. But you can actually you can go in there and try and delete them from in there, but you'll need to give yourself admin rights and all sorts of stuff, so it gets a little bit tricky. But anyway, I didn't need to do any of that in the end, but I did try doing it in the first instance. So where did we get to? 6. So once I'd done all that faffing around in Device Manager, I then tried installing it again, and both devices failed again. I just could not get them I couldn't get them to open. They would function. I would open it and it would function, but the minute I closed it or did anything as well as have it open, it just blue screened. So that hadn't helped. That hadn't worked. So the next step was, at this point, I was so pissed off. I was like, right, it's got to be something kicking around that I'm never going to find. So I backed up on my external hard drive. I backed up all my music and all the stuff I wanted to keep, and I flattened the laptop. I basically did a window in. I'm trying to remember where it is now off the top of my head, but I basically did Jesus, mind blank. So in Windows settings, which is like a little cog item, again, it's in your control panel, but you can create shortcuts to it or get to it through the menu and just type settings in. In there's update and security. And in there is a recovery section. And that's basically what I did. I went in there and I did a reset this PC. And when you get into there, I'm not going to go any further than that because I don't want to do it again, people. So I went in there and I reset PC, and at that point you get two options, and it says, do you want to delete all of your files, or do you just want to delete the programs and keep the files? For my liking, I wanted to be absolutely sure that I'd got rid of any remnants of anything, so I made sure I'd backed everything up, and I just said, no, wipe the damn thing. The only other option after that is it gives you an option to do a quick version of wiping or a full version of formatting, which really you only need to use the full version if you're going to be getting rid of the machine, because it means that it's going to make it nigh on impossible for anyone to get ghost images off of your hard drive. But because you're still keeping it and it's yours, you can just stick with it. So if you're ever selling it, do the full one. It takes a couple of hours. If you're ever keeping it and you just want to wipe stuff, just do the standard one. And so I'm not going to linger about on this too much, but that was it. I did the full restore of the laptop, and before I did anything else, once it had finished doing it, I installed the Elgato software, plugged in, this is the S on the new one, plugged it in, started it up, and it actually blue screened on me installing it. And I was like, no. So basically I was sitting there thinking, I've just flattened my entire laptop for no reason. Although looking back now, I'm thinking that I'm glad I did, just because I knew that the peace of mind of, right, it's nothing that I'd installed, it's nothing that I had done, because something somewhere's not right and I need to find out how I fix it. But I knew it was nothing to do with me or anything I'd done or anything I'd installed. So, it was that. It was only a case of, has to be something to do with Windows versus Elgato, or the system versus Elgato, because there was nothing else on it at that point. So I then chatted to my friend John, who's a technician. I mean, I used to be a technician back in the day, but I'm a programmer now, people. I don't deal with hardware so much, so I haven't done for years and years. So all this sort of, rooting out issues like this isn't something that I would know naturally, whereas if I was still doing that stuff, I probably would. But anyway, he informed me that there's a place where it dumps little files when you get these blue screens, so that you can try and get more information about what's causing them. And it's in C drive Windows /mini dump. There's a folder there. I think the folder will only exist if it's had one crash. The minute it crashes, it will create this folder and slop a file in it. But the file itself will be I think it's just gobbledygook if you try and open it by itself. So you have to download a little program that will read them for you. They're free. Well, the one I picked was free, and it was called, where have I put it? Blue Screen View, it was called. So if you just Google Blue Screen View, and that will automatically look at the dump folder, the mini dump folder, and it will list them out a bit like an event viewer. I think you can view this stuff in Event Viewer, but it's easier to do it this way. Now, the minute I looked at you'll get two screens sort of split in the middle. You get a lump at the top where you select the dump, and it's got the date and the time, so you know exactly which one it is that it's happened. And I had about 6 of them for every crash that had happened. And yeah, you highlight it, and the window below tells you loads of little things. But the first 2 rows of the bottom one is basically telling you what's caused them. And it will say cause. I think actually the top section had a cause column, and it said that the cause was a DirectX sys file, which basically is a driver. It's a driver issue. At that point, I knew it was a driver issue, and I just had to try and find out how I resolve it, because I've got no idea what's clashing. So the first thing, obviously, that springs to mind is the graphics drivers must be having a problem. So I then updated the Intel and NVIDIA graphics, and I did that via Device Manager. I went into Device Manager, and in what's it called, graphics adapters or whatever it's called, video adapters I think it's called. You've got 2 options in my case. It was the NVIDIA and the Intel. So that's the onboard graphic. Well, they're both onboard on a laptop, but you've got the motherboard's graphics and you've got the NVIDIA graphics, which is the big one. So I right-clicked on the Intel one, and that said, yeah, I've got. I mean, usually when you do something in there, it kind of goes, nah, you've already got the most recent one, because my Windows updates were all up to date. But in this case, it said, yeah, I've found a new one. I'm going to download it and put it on for the Intel. NVIDIA said it already had the right one, and at that point I was like, well, I don't believe it. So I'm going to go, and I'll go to the NVIDIA site, and I'll put my card number in, 1050, whatever it was, GTX something or other, and I'll download them from there. And sure enough, I found some up-to-date drivers, and it did warn me at that point. It said it may be that your laptop provider has got its own bespoke drivers for the NVIDIA, so you may have issues if you download them from here. At which point I'm like, okay, I'll risk it, because I've just done a rebuild anyway. So I did all of that, still blue screening. And not only that, I then, the other thing was I then found which is in the same bit, trying to get ahead of my notes here. Okay, so I might say in the middle of all of this, I'm Googling as I go, you know. So I did find this guy. This guy had done an article saying try this, try that, and so on. And this is where I got a lot of these ideas from. One of the things he said was, if you've tried updating the graphics card drivers and that's not worked, then try turning off the hardware acceleration, which basically pushes the machine to get better performance, and that's done in the registry. So if you want to try that, well, again, wait to the end of this, but if that's something you need to try, you'll be able to Google that as well. But there is a place, if you just Google turn off hardware acceleration in registry Windows 10, you'll get someone showing you how to do it. And it's not that hard. You just go down it's like a folder tree on the left. You find the place you've got to do it. If there's not one there already that exists, you just right click new and you create this little thing with a value of 1 in it, basically. It's dead easy. Now, interestingly, at that point, it started work. Well, it stopped blue screen on me. I could not get it to blue screen once I did that, but Elgato wasn't functioning properly. Every time I tried to capture on it, it was like it was using some really crappy graphics card. It was all sorts of pixelation going on. The sound wouldn't record properly. It was all over the place. So, and that was kind of, I wasn't that frustrated at that point, because I thought, well, it's all right, because I've had a play, and I think what had happened was, because I downloaded that NVIDIA driver from NVIDIA and not via somewhere I should have done, I think that had kind of thrown it into chaos a little bit, and that was fine. So at this point I'm thinking, do you know what, I might just do another restore, because the restore only takes about it didn't take long, it was maybe 3/4 of an hour at most. It might not even been that long. So so I did that. I decided that I was going to do a restore again. Went back through that process and didn't do anything with Elgato. I went in the midst of this, I had a conversation with a colleague who mentioned the BIOS and the motherboard and said that that's where a lot of issues can arise. So I had that in the back of my mind, and I was like, well, how do I upgrade the motherboard? How do I do the BIOS? But anyway, so this took me eventually to, and it's stupid really, because I should really have gone there first thinking about it, but it's all in retrospect, isn't it? But I ended up on the HP website, and if you go to support.hp.com/gb-en/drivers, I think it is. But anyway, you'll get there if you go to support.hp.com and go to the drivers section. And if you type in the serial number, and if you've not got HP, I'm pretty sure whoever you've bought your laptop from, or whoever you've bought your PC from even, again, I suppose if you've got something you've built yourself, you might have a bit more of a journey with the other stuff that I've kind of been mentioning there. But then you'd probably be able to get your drivers from the hardware specific component parts like I did with NVIDIA. It might have worked for you, that, as opposed to me. So I ended up on that HP site, and I thought, right, so it gives you an option to self-identify the laptop. I clicked on that, I wouldn't do it, but it was all right because I had the serial number anyway. So I typed the serial number in, submitted it, and immediately got this list of things. And I'll try and put this list up behind me. I won't be able to show you the full list because it kind of expands at every level, but it'll give you the root of each option, of which I have on screen at the moment. So as I'm talking about this, I'll try and have it behind me. So at this point, you've got all of these up-to-date drivers that you can try and download and update. And when you expand each of these, some of them have only got one, some of them have got 2 or 3, and one of them had 4 or 5, I think. And you just read the explanation. So basically what I did was I picked the most recent of all of those out, whatever it was. I looked for the 2018, most recent one if I could. And whatever the most recent date was, that's the one I would pick, download and install. And I started with, because this BIOS and motherboard and flash thing was in my head, I started by doing the BIOS and the firmware. And the BIOS one was, it's a little bit scary when you do it, but don't panic. You just do the step by step, but at some point your machine will just go boosh and it will shut down, and it will look like it's not doing anything. But just be patient and wait for it, because it will keep flickering and doing little things, and then it will suddenly come to life. So just be patient. Don't try and turn anything off or do anything. It's doing a whole bunch of stuff in the BIOS. So just leave it for 5 minutes or so, and it will come back to life. And then I did the firmware after that. And I didn't try anything with Elgato. I haven't even let the system touch Elgato at this point. So then I went back to the top of the list. I did the driver audio. I did the driver chipset I waited on. I did that last because there was a big chunk of stuff in there. I'll tell you which one I picked out in the end. But I did the drivers on the graphics. There was an Intel one in there, and there was a NVIDIA one in there. So that was bang on for what I would have expected. And they were newer. Everything I picked out was newer than what was on the laptop. Driver, keyboard, mouse, and input devices. I didn't touch that, to be fair. Nor network, nor storage. Didn't touch that. Diagnostic, I think I left. Firmware we did. Software, no. Software media, no. No. Okay, so the rest of it was a no. So yeah, so I basically took everything from there that looked like it was to do with clashing with drivers or what have you. A lot of the stuff, there's maybe a third of that list which is kind of helpful stuff, not system compulsory stuff. So the minute I did all of that, and there's a lot of restarts in that process, but you don't have to copy files to a USB pen and to do your BIOS and all that sort of stuff. It does it as a full, so you just save, you hit the download, save it, run the executable that's just downloaded, and it will just do it. So it was dead easy, dead simple. And I then, at this point, I was kind of like, I was gonna stick with my old one, and I was gonna send the new one back. I've actually already filled out the form and told Amazon I'm sending it back. but it doesn't really matter now, though, does it? Because if it's not working on the old one, it's not working on the new one either. So it's 6 1/2 a dozen. But I suppose I could get my money back. But Anyway, so I've already filled the form in. However, after doing all of that, I then decided that I wouldn't go back to the old one. I'll try once again, just one last time, to try and get this new HD60S working. Plugged in, plugged it in first, set it all up, plugged it in, and then it popped in saying your device is ready. Then back to the Elgato website, downloaded the newest version of the software, installed the software, and to this point, and I've been in and out of it quite a number of times. I've tried playing videos while I've had that open as well, which would have inevitably crashed it if I'd tried that before. I've tried all sorts of stuff, and I've been in and out of it, and in and out of it, and in and out of it, and it's to this point not blue screened on me. And it looks like, touch wood, touch wood, it looks like that's sorted the problem. Now, which of those things has sorted it, I couldn't 100% tell you, but without any shadow of a doubt, it is a system driver issue somewhere with that bunch of stuff. So the answer to the conundrum is update everything you possibly can from whichever your official site is for whoever it is that's provided your PC. If you've built it yourself, then you'll have to try and do it the hard way by going to each component website and getting the most recent driver for it, including your motherboard, because I've got a feeling that it was a BIOS slash flash issue, that possibly graphics as well. It might be a combination of the lot, to be fair. So but that was a fair journey. That, I mean, I would have considering I'm someone that knows a fair bit about PC. I mean, I'm not by any, I'm not a novice, am I? You know what I mean? I'm someone that knows my way around technology and knows my way around software and hardware. I mean, if you're a bog standard person that just isn't not heavily tech savvy, but wanting to capture stuff, and you're getting that problem, I mean, there was nowhere. Like, I was Googling like Elgato HD 60 blue screen, blah. I was getting a few articles, but nothing that explained what was happening. But after that journey, the answer is that it's just driver clashes is what's happening. Clearly, whatever the new software is Elgato's using, it, I think, is now not happy talking to very old versions of motherboard or graphics card or whatever drivers, and you get this bang and it just splats. And it was like this machine was not blue screening with any other product. It was just the Elgato, so it had to be a clash of that particular device's drivers against something else's drivers. And that became more and more obvious as the time went on. So, yeah. So I mean, I was close to just giving up YouTube. That's how painful it had gotten people. You know what I mean? It was just like, I can't be bothered. My life's too short to be spending this much time trying to figure out why my machine just dies on me for no apparent reason. And for just that device. And I knew that, like, there was no way it was my machine not being capable. It's an uber powerful laptop. You know what I mean? It's like, it was £1,000, this laptop. It wasn't cheap. It's got 16 gig of RAM and i7 quad core processors. And I mean, there's all sorts bloody going on with it. It's a beast. So there's no way that it was incapable of doing 60 frames per second 1080p capture. It's more than capable of doing it, and it's been doing it for a year and a half. So something had changed somewhere, whether it be in a Windows update or whether it was because I happened to throw... I mean, it was really coincidental that it happened when I threw the new 60S version on, and at some point I've moved things to a version of driver that it's just gone, nah, I'm not happy with all that old stuff now. And I say old stuff, I mean, the laptop was bought in tail end of 2016, I think. No, it wasn't. It was bought 2017, March 2017, February maybe. So it's about a year, a bit more than a year and a half, but it's still fairly young as machines go. So anyway, I'm delighted at the moment, and even at the moment, even if I haven't managed to get it to fail, but at the moment it's running so smoothly when I turn it on, and one of the things that was happening was the minute I ticked the 60 frames per second box made it 3 times worse. It was pretty quick at telling me it weren't happy the minute I did it as well. And all of that is working beautifully now. So, you know, if it came to it and the only thing it was doing was blue screening the minute I stopped recording, then it wouldn't be the end of the world. At least I still have a recording. And it didn't seem to be damaging anything else when it did it, but just really painful to have to reboot and get everything back up again. But at the moment we look like we're on a winner, so I can get recording again. So I hope that journey. I know, I'm sorry this wasn't a step-by-step instruction. I've tried to go through each thing that I did to try and solve the problem, and I will try and throw up a couple of images behind me just to show you things. But I'm not really selling this as a tutorial on how to do it. It's just this was my journey in getting it fixed, and in the end what I should have done in the first place, and it probably would have saved me having to do a system restore twice, was to go to the manufacturer website of the laptop or PC or whatever you've got, and get every single updated driver, including your BIOS and flash, everything that's hardware related, and update them. And that seems to have sorted the issue out. So it's a nice feeling to know that there was a solution at the end. It was a painful little journey, but and the upside, you know, the laptop I had done a lot of testing of other software on it. I'd done a lot of installs and stuff. None of that had an impact because we know that. But now that we've done all that testing, but it's nice to just have it nice and clean again. And you know, I haven't lost anything because I backed up. But I mean, my music comes from my laptop iTunes, so but I backed up the entire music folder, so I knew. I just put music folder back, copy and paste all of that into the music folder that's new and empty, and I'm back to where I started once I've installed iTunes back onto it. It's all as it was. So I didn't really lose anything. I still had all my files for reinstalling my rendering software, my graphics packages, and all that sort of stuff. I still had all that, so it was only a case of just reinstalling everything. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, it took probably to do a full restore was about, I think it was about half an hour to 3/4 of an hour, something like that, to do the restore. Well, I say full restore, quick restore, and then to put everything back on, all of the main stuff back on. I mean, it probably was a couple of hours work. It wasn't the end of the world. Obviously it's just the groan of having to back everything up, but in the end I kind of contain everything to the desktop and the music folder, and there's a few files elsewhere, but nothing major. I kind of keep everything fairly well contained, so it wasn't that painful in the end, even though it felt like it when I started the process. I was like, oh, actually that was quite quick. But it was, I think it was an inevitable part of the journey, because that was the point I knew that it was nothing that I'd done. And there had to be some logical answer to why it was happening. That kind of gave me a bit of a boost to sort of, I don't know, see it through, I guess. So yeah, so I'm happy that I did all of it now, but it was a pain in the bloody arse, people. So don't be disheartened if you're getting this blue screen, because you should be able to get to a solution by doing what I've done, or a similar solution by doing what you need to do with your manufacturer's stuff, or what have you. So I hope that's been of help to somebody out there who's having this bloody nightmare of a problem. I'll have entitled this with the words that may help when you're searching for stuff on YouTube. I'll put blue screen of death in the title, and you know, BS whatever it is. BSOD. I couldn't put that into letters in my head, people. And Elgato and stuff in the title so that it's easy to pick out. So sorry, it was a bit of a blether to get there. I'm not sure how long we've been talking. 35 minutes, people. So there you are. But anyway, I mean, in the end, I think all you're going to have to do is go to your manufacturer's website and update everything, and you'll be fine. And that should resolve everything. Outside of that, I mean, the only thing that I could do now, if it does happen again, is try and get in touch with Elgato, or I'll go to an Elgato forum or something, But I don't see what else could possibly be done other than what I've done. There is nothing left that could possibly be updated. So I think at that point it would just have to be logged with Elgato as a defunct something. You've broke something with whatever your latest release is. Which wouldn't be the first time it's happened with a software company, I guess. And they have to encompass a gazillion different machines and, you know, manufacturers and all sorts of stuff. But you would think, you know, HP would be fairly well covered. I mean, you know, they are pretty much top of the marketplace brand. HP and Dell probably the two top ones, or, you know. So there you are. That has been my journey. If you came here for the solution, that was the solution in the end. Go to the manufacturer website, download absolutely every possible driver you can that is the newest version. BIOSes, flashes, graphics cards, audio drivers, everything. Everything you can get your hands on. Update it. And you should be okay. And there you are. So if that's what you came for, then you can probably toddle off now. You're probably wondering why it's taken me 35 minutes to tell you to do that. But I thought I would share the whole journey, because otherwise it just seems like I spent 2 minutes going on, and it doesn't explain to the people who are part of my channel as to why I've not posted anything up all week. So there you are. But that's why I have not posted anything up this week. I've had a nightmare with this laptop. But we are back online, people. It is working. I've tested it with the PlayStation. I've tested it with the Xbox. And everything seems to be working. And, well, you know, I haven't tested it with the Nintendo, but it's the same damn HDMI port, people, so it'll be fine. So there you are. So that was the purpose of this midweek vlog of mine. No flagons today, people, because it's a school night, you know. Flagons of cola. Although we established if it's not alcohol, we're not allowed to call it a flagon, are we? But there you are. It has been an honour and a privilege for me and Vivi to bring you this vlog today. And I shall see you all in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.